Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Cape May Hawkwatch. It's nice to have all of you joining us this morning. My name is Eric Brunke. I am a seasonal staff with New Jersey Audubon and Cape May Bird Observatory. Assisting me this morning is Dale Rosselet, the Vice President for Education with New Jersey Audubon.
Good morning.
Yay, nice to have all of you here. Welcome back for our weekly segment from the Hawkwatch. Today we have some fun things to cover, starting off with some recent news happenings actually. For those of you who haven't heard yet, we have a virtual fall birding festival coming up next week actually, October 2nd through the 4th. We have additional information with that festival on New Jersey Audubon or njaudubon.org. There's going to be some really fun happenings there. There's some wonderful speakers. A personal, like an ornithological inspiration, Ken Kaufman is going to be a speaker at the festival, as is the renowned local raptor bander, Katie Duffy as well. So you're in for a fun treat if you do happen to partake in our virtual birding festival. In addition to the virtual segments where we'll take you out in the field and show you about some of the migration that's happening among our various hotspots in the area, we also have a bird ID quiz that'll be held and hosted through the Young Birders Club of New Jersey. So really there's something for everyone, and really hope that you can join us next week. Other news happenings on this pretty nice fall day that we're having. The Hawkwatch has had some banner days as of recently. On Wednesday, we had a really special day in particular with northwest winds that we'll talk about a little bit later during our segment. These northwest winds brought all sorts of raptors through, including 1,008 sharp-shinned hawks in one day, counted by Tom Reed. So we've had some amazing flights. Hawk Hunter Jesse as well has had some really fun times as of recently. American kestrels, sometimes by the dozens. Merlins, lots of sharp-shinned hawks as well, red-tailed hawks, the whole gamut, and the raptor migration is only picking up as these weeks progress. So again, we'd love to see you here as well at the Hawkwatch. It's always a fun time. And kind of getting to our main segment of this week's little live from the Hawkwatch talk is we're going to be covering geography, and we're going to be talking about weather. So, if you're new to hawk watching, you might be wondering, why do so many raptors come through South Jersey and especially Cape May? And a lot of it has to do with the topography of where we are. So, to our west, we have the Delaware Bay, and to the east, we have the Atlantic coast. Now, the rule of thumb is that most birds of prey prefer to not fly over large bodies of water, but instead they stay over land. And the main reason for staying over large bodies of land masses has to do with the thermal activity that the sun creates. So what happens is, on a day-by-day basis, even on a slightly overcast day like this, the water has a cooling effect around it, whereas the land has a natural kind of this radiating effect of temperature difference. And a lot of these birds of prey take advantage of those thermals, and if you're by ridge sites, updrafts as well, from the air going up the mountain ways. Every Hawkwatch is a little different. Here in Cape May, you know, I don't want to say we pride ourselves, but really we do pride ourselves in so many raptors and so many birds that come through the area. And a lot of it, like I said, has to do with how the birds funnel in here. We don't have mountains nearby, so our broadwing hawk numbers are much smaller than you might see at some of our cousin hawk watching sites way inland. But when you look at the raptor numbers here, we see a very high number of falcons, like American kestrels and merlins, and soon to be coming up many peregrine falcons. So really, Cape May has just so many birds that come through every year. Going on with the topography, you also have to consider the habitat of what makes this area so special. South Jersey as a whole has a lot of intact habitat. You know, it's one of the more sparsely populated areas of the state, and especially once you get into Cape May and even more the Cape May Point area, a lot of landowners pride themselves in making their yards nature friendly and wildlife friendly, which you can do too actually. It attracts lots of birds, butterflies, and more. And a lot of birds take advantage of this. So as these birds are flying down in the South Jersey, they're going to be passing over all this good habitat where there's a lot of insect life, a lot of songbird life. And this is a very important food chain for these birds of prey that are flying through, like a monarch flying by just behind us now. There is always something going on in Cape May. So we covered why the birds of prey fly through this area, okay? And going on with that, we'll talk about the weather. Every day is a little different when looking at the weather and the weather patterns. And the weather can influence how many raptors we see on a daily basis. Some raptors are seen earlier in the season, like their main window of migration is going to be earlier on. Some birds of prey migrate a little bit later in the season, like some of our larger birds in particular, like red-tailed hawks, red-shouldered hawks. We get golden eagles, believe it or not, a little bit later in the season as well, that come through with the cold fronts. And wind direction, I'll say it again, has a big influence on how many birds and what birds we see on a daily basis. If the winds are out of the west, so from where the Hawkwatch is, if the winds are coming from the direction of the lighthouse, or if they're from the northwest, what happens is many birds from like Pennsylvania, New York, and that general vicinity will get funneled into the far eastern shore of New Jersey. And as they make their way south into New Jersey, down this funnel, what happens is they'll accumulate in larger numbers. So again, kind of affirming how these flight conditions work. Coincidentally, we had northwest winds on Wednesday, and that happened to bring, like I said, over 1,000 sharp-shinned hawks in one day alone. So if you're planning a visit, there's always something going on here at the Cape May Hawkwatch. But if you plan a day with west or northwest winds, there's a slightly greater chance of seeing maybe more than usual raptors. Here in Cape May, we also experience different fronts, especially nor'easters from time to time. And to a lot of hawkwatches, northeastern winds are not thought of as being a really prominent or hoped for wind. But because of where we are, along the coast, we see a lot of osprey and a lot of peregrine falcons in particular. And those are two raptor species that are known for being very, very powerful flyers, capable of flying actually well over the water. So when we get strong northeastern winds, although some of the raptor flights may die down, we may actually see a big spike in peregrine falcons and osprey that were originally too far out over the water for us to count and observe. So it's pretty amazing. So stop on by any day of the week through the end of October. Myself and good friend Emily Wilmoth will be here interpreting birds, pointing out all the fun birds to you. And the count goes through the end of November. So lots of birds have already happened and lots of birds to come. Next, we will talk about our bird of the week. Our feature bird of the week, hey, is the bald eagle. Bald eagle. And everyone loves the bald eagle, except if you're an osprey, because osprey catch a lot of fish, and bald eagles will fly after osprey in hopes of a meal. They'll actually pester the osprey back and forth, back and forth. We've seen it a few times already this fall at the Hawkwatch, where bald eagle has this little, it's like an ornithological dogfight. Bald eagle is chasing the osprey. Osprey may drop the fish, and the bald eagles are actually capable of catching the fish in the air. So it's pretty amazing what's going on. Here we have some bald eagles that we'll kind of do a little makeshift migration for you so you can see and appreciate the feel of how these birds look. Thank you, Dale. So if you look high up here, what you're going to see is massive, very long wings, fairly prominent head, fairly prominent tail overall. The wings of a bald eagle, if you ever see them flying head on, for example, look like a plank of wood, okay? So a bold, dark plank of wood flying towards you if you happen to see a head-on bald eagle. From a side or from the underbelly, they're just massive winged. Everything about them is bold and long-winged. They take about 4 to 5 years to reach their full white head and full white tail. In their teenage years, they'll undergo kind of a transitioning like this bird is going through, where they'll have various amounts of light and dark in their underwing, various amounts of white in the undertail, and a darker head as well. And you notice on this bald eagle in particular, you see the little wing pit areas right here that are white. This is a little field mark that golden eagles will never show regardless of age, okay? So this is a beautiful young bald eagle flying by, flying by, flying by. Notice how long the wings are. And for comparison, we'll do an adult bald eagle. Okay, so we have adult bald eagle right here. Once again, massive wings, massive wings. Bald eagles have about a 6-foot wingspan, plus or minus a little bit, depending on males or females. In the world of raptors, females are larger than males. So if you want to impress your friends with this fancy raptor term, it's called reverse sexual dimorphism. Females are larger than males. But whether they're near or far, you actually can't tell male or female bald eagles apart. It's simply looking at the age to distinguish them. So they're absolutely beautiful birds, and we're seeing more and more of them as the weeks go on. So bald eagles, another little story about bald eagles. Actually, we'll keep up bald eagle for just a moment. Years ago, there was a chemical that was applied nationwide, actually, called DDT. Okay, and DDT caused a massive drop in the bald eagle population, as well as ospreys. Here's a scoop of what happens with DDT. DDT was thought as this miracle pesticide or chemical that could be used over farm fields. It was even thought to rid bed bugs out of people's beds, and even in the weird, awkward situation, it was thought to kill head lice as well. So it had all sorts of multi-purpose uses. People were applying this left and right, up and down, as this miracle drug of how to make our lives more sterile. And what happens is DDT was leaching into the environment, absorbing into the watershed, where the fish were absorbing it into their bodies. Bald eagles and osprey would consume these DDT concentrated fish, which causes a lack of calcium absorption in their body. And year after year, these bald eagles were making massive migrations all the way up to Cape May and beyond to lay one set of eggs for the summer, and they were having failed nesting attempts year after year after year. It was absolutely detrimental. And so what happened is, because they weren't able to reproduce, their populations were dwindling over and over and over to the point where they were downright rare. This Hawkwatch has been going on for 44 years from this very spot, when Pete Dunn started this hawk count, essentially by sitting on a lifeguard chair, proudly counting the raptors for the very first year. On the very first season of this Cape May hawk count, there was a total of 12 bald eagles seen the entire fall. Putting that into perspective, that's not a lot of bald eagles at all. A mere fraction of what they were long-term historically. Now on a success note, since the outlawing of DDT, people like Rachel Carlson promoting science, talking about how we can change the world, make it better for wildlife of all sorts. Since the elimination of DDT, bald eagles have increased. My last season of counting here in 2018, we had 941. It's fun flying by. We had 941 bald eagles in one season. So this is a very, very prominent success story. And again, this can be applied to all of our lives. Sometimes it's what you don't do, or making your yard more nature friendly, that can make a difference. So, I want to thank you all for being here today. One other little plug for the teachers and the parents that are following along with the educational component. You can follow along with our Hawkwatch happenings also at NewJerseyAudubon.org. Again, thank you very much for joining us today, and hope to see you at the Hawkwatch.